to End Historic Shutdown as Republicans Claim Victory, by Emily Brooks and Mike Lillies. The House returns Wednesday to vote on a spending package to end the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, an outcome widely viewed as a Republican victory over Democrats, who are now battling internally over how their firms stand on health care dissolved without a resolution. Progressives are furious that a group of Senate Democratic centrists broke after 41 days to strike a deal with Republicans on a spending package that included some concessions on federal layoffs, without getting a commitment on extending expiring health care subsidies under Obamacare. And while public polls showed that Republicans were blamed more than Democrats for the shutdown, Republicans are spinning the result as a total victory. It really was a shutdown about nothing. I mean, what we are voting on is effectively exactly what we offered them several weeks back, Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican from Louisiana, said on CNN on Monday. Still, Democrats think the shutdown helped their side by highlighting the GOP's positions on health care. They are pointing to sweeping wins in off-year elections last week and vowing to keep that debate alive heading into next year's midterm elections, where they see health care as a boon to their campaign prospects. This fight continues, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat from New York, told CNN on Tuesday. And over the last several weeks, we have successfully elevated this health care issue such that the American people are demanding action. Johnson hopes to clear the bill through the lower chamber on Wednesday evening, 2 days after it squeaked through the Senate with just enough votes to defeat a Democratic filibuster. President Trump has said he will sign the proposal when it reaches his desk. Passage of the legislation would end weeks of political turmoil and economic chaos, through which federal workers were unpaid, if not fired. Low-income families were denied food stamps, and air travelers faced massive delays, flight cancellations, and other headaches that only heightened the pressure on Congress to find an elusive deal. The vote will also be the first for House lawmakers since September 19th. Johnson kept the lower chamber from voting or holding committee hearings for a remarkable impromptu recess as he aimed to pressure Senate Democrats to accept a House-passed, Republican-supported, clean funding stopgap. One wild card for Wednesday's vote is attendance, as lawmakers who got roughly 2 days notice to return to Washington scramble to avoid flight delays and cancellations caused by air traffic controller staff shortages during the shutdown. In the 2-vote House GOP majority, every absence counts. Some House members opted for alternate travel methods to make it for the vote to reopen. Representative Derek Van Orden, Republican from Wisconsin, told The Hill that he was riding his motorcycle back to Washington in freezing weather to avoid risking flight issues. The breakthrough legislation is technically bipartisan, having been crafted with the help of a handful of Senate Democrats. But that support will not be mirrored in the House, where Democrats are overwhelmingly opposed to the bill because it does not extend expiring Obamacare subsidies. Still, Democrats are powerless to block the proposal if Johnson and GOP leaders can rally Republican lawmakers behind it. Heading into the vote, they appear on track to do just that, given the support from Trump and the House Freedom Caucus, a group that has frequently clashed with leadership over government funding. This time, Representative Andy Harris, Republican from Maryland, the Freedom Caucus chair, says the group stands ready to back the proposal, a crucial commitment. Harris said this week that Freedom Caucus members are grumbling about a provision of the Senate deal that reinstates federal workers fired by Trump during the 43-day shutdown. But otherwise, the conservative lawmakers are pretty favorable toward Representative Thomas Massey, Kentucky, a budget hawk who consistently votes against spending measures that do not reduce deficits, is the only Republican who has announced his opposition to the bill. And while a small handful of wildcard Republicans have yet to commit their support, including Representative Victoria Sparks-Ind, who opposed the GOP bill in September, Republican leaders are expected to get a small boost from across the aisle. Representative Jared Golden, Maine, who was the lone Democrat to back the Republican stopgap spending bill just before the shutdown began on October 1st, is signaling his support for the Senate deal. And several other centrist Democrats, including Representatives Marie Gluesenkamp Perez, Washington, and Henry Cuellar, Texas, are also potential yes votes for the Republicans. The Senate agreement created a hybrid package, combining the Republicans' initial continuing resolution CR, which provides short-term funding to much of the government, with 3 longer-term appropriations bills funding a handful of agencies until next October. The package funds military construction, Veterans Affairs, the Department of Agriculture, and the legislative branch through the remainder of fiscal 2026, which ends on September 30th, and the rest of the government through January 30th. It would also reverse any layoffs of government employees that occurred during the long shutdown and prevent any more federal workforce layoffs, though the January 30th stopgap end date, a stipulation demanded by the Senate Democrats who backed the deal. Left unresolved, however, is the thorny issue that stood at the center of the partisan fight: Obamacare tax credits set to expire at the end of the year. Democrats had demanded an extension of those subsidies as a condition of reopening the government, warning of the spike in premiums and other out-of-pocket costs that will hit millions of Americans if Congress does not intervene. While Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Republican from South Dakota, has promised a Senate vote on extending the subsidies in December as part of the deal, there is no guarantee that the bill will pass the upper chamber. Johnson has declined to commit to staging a vote in the House at all. Republicans refused to negotiate on the subsidies while the government was shut down, and a sizable portion of Republicans are opposed to providing any more funding for Obamacare, creating a tricky political environment for GOP leaders to navigate any bipartisan compromise. Leaders have floated a number of ideas for reforms, however, such as income caps for those who receive the subsidies. Centrist Republicans are warning that the party will get clobbered in the midterm elections if they do not step in to prevent the spike in healthcare costs expected to hit millions of Americans when the current Obamacare subsidies expire. Number 1, it is the right thing to do just morally. Number 2, we are going to get killed politically. Representative Jeff Van Drew, Republican from New Jersey, told Fox News over the weekend. I am going to be very blunt again. It is about winning. We have to win the midterms.
With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I did report on Mike Johnson saying that he won't hold a vote that from him, and that he's not committing it last night. If you want to check that out, go down into the video description.